Welcome to another edition of From the Front Lines, where we discuss both the day-to-day and one-of-a-kind issues facing real estate managers. Today, I'm here with Rob Finlay, founder and CEO of 30 Capital. Welcome, Rob.
Thanks, Suzanne. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. So let's talk about data. What is the importance of standardizing data for commercial real estate firms?
Well, I think it's funny that we're sitting here talking about data when maybe years ago you would never have thought that this would have been a topic. But I think the time has come where people have realized that data is actually an asset that they have, and it's really important. And so the only way that you can really make value out of data is to have it standardized. And I think one of the great things is a long time ago. One of my CTOs gave me this great explanation of how data works and how every bit of data speaks a different bit of language. And so you would have if you have a Yardi system, it speaks a certain type of language. And if you had a different type of accounting system like RealPage or something, that would speak different language. And it's important to be able to translate the actual data that comes out. But in real estate, we also have a struggle where we don't necessarily standardize our own sort of terminology, our own vernacular, right? So pet fees are they pet fees or are they ancillary income fees or things like that? And so working from a company standpoint, and one of the things that we've done is really focus from a management level, top to bottom, to standardize not only our data sources, but also our terminology, so that we can take this data and benefit from analyzing it, comparing it, doing benchmarks, peer-to-peer benchmarks, things like that. So it's very important to have a data to be standardized in order to use it.
So important to compare apples to apples, right? So what is the difference? We can classify internal data and external data. What's the difference and how do you delineate between the two?
So I do it pretty easy. So internal data is really any data that we create as a firm. So internal data for us is things like our rent rolls, our operating statements, things like that, our box scores or anything like that. And any external data would be data sources that somebody else creates. So for example, we track our Yelp scores across properties. That would be an external data source. Or we track crime statistics or census statistics. That would be outside data or external data.
And so with all of this data, internal, external, how can you go about standardizing that data as it is so important to have, standard data across the board?
Well, I think that's really the thing, right? And that's the holy grail, is being able to do it. I think, a lot of people have asked why, how did you get into data and analytics? And it was really because I paid the price. I made the mistake. Years ago, we wanted to compare all of our properties, and we wanted to do this sort of a big database, and so we put all of our data together and realized that we didn't have it standardized. And so having the thought of being able to compare my properties or analyze my properties and using data, and especially with all of the new buzzwords out there, the artificial intelligence and everything else, it makes it even more exciting to see what's possible with your properties. But we looked very quickly and said, well, geez, our data is not standardized. Our stuff is not. And so we've gone through the process of standardizing our data. And it's not it's not necessarily an overnight thing, but you have to make it a process from high above to say, we will standardize our data. And we went through and created our database that will standardize our data sources.
Is there a difference in standardization between internal data and external data?
Very, because standardization, as I said, from internal data, a lot of it is just sort of nomenclature, right? So it's as I said, so one of the properties might say pet fees. One of our property managers might record it as something different. So being able to use your terminology to be consistent internally is probably one of the most important things. Second thing, obviously, chart of accounts and things like that. But a lot of it is just terminology. Once you have the standardized terminology and process, then standardizing internal data becomes an easier process. External data, well, you can't control what I can't control what Google's going to do or what Yelp's going to do, but we can create the technology and the systems, the software to be able to convert their language or be able to translate the data that comes in from Yelp to make it relative to me and be able so that I can be able to use that data.
So it's no secret that we've partnered with your organization, Lobby CRE, to standardize and develop benchmarks for our new income expense product, IEIQ. So talk a little bit about that. What does this platform bring, and how will it support the real estate management industry?
Well, thanks for that. Thanks for that plug. Yeah, I think, look, data standardization is very important, and it's a very, very difficult process. We don't absolutely will not underestimate how hard it is. And we built our business because there's really a couple ways that a company could go to try to standardize their data to be able to use it. One is to build the systems that we've built internally and use them, or the other would be to get off the shelf like we do. But the expense and the cost that has been involved in building our system is incredibly expensive and time consuming. We've been doing this now for several years, and but being able to see the benefit of it is this benchmark, right? The peer-to-peer benchmark, your IEIQ, is really fascinating because now for the first time I can go into a market and quickly see my relative how I perform relative to another property or the benchmarks. And that is fascinating information. And that's only possible because we can take the data and standardize it. So we can standardize the thousands of properties that are coming into the system, and we can standardize them so that that elevator expense is elevator expense, or this expense is this expense, and so on and so forth. So really makes the value, and this is a really great use case of being able for a user, a property manager or an asset manager or an owner, to really find and track the performance of their individual properties relative to a group of properties. So very exciting to see that use case be realized.
Knowledge is power, right? We're really excited to see what intelligence our people can pull out of this new portal, and I think it will only continue to grow as we roll it out. So anything else you'd like to say about data standardization, Rob?
Well, I think, look, it's probably not the sexiest word out there right now, but it's critically important for companies to realize that it's either now or never to be able to do this. The sooner that you can look at and understand data standardization and understand data collection, the sooner that you as an organization can do this and accomplish this, the more powerful you will be and the better you will be. And unfortunately, it will be very apparent for people who embrace data standardization, i.e. they'll be able to use their data to analyze their properties, their property markets, and just be able to provide a much higher level of service and accomplishment than somebody who doesn't. And so I think I've stood on my soapbox for so long saying, folks, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. The time is now where we can see companies that utilize data and analytics through data standardization are so much further ahead of companies that do not employ data and analytics because they don't have a standard data standardization. And that's probably the most important thing, is to understand you don't really have data and you don't have data and analytics unless you have data standardization.
And it truly sounds like a competitive advantage to have just that. So we're excited about the new IEIQ. It's available, of course, at IREM.org. Thank you so much for your time, Rob.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Suzanne.
Visit IREM.org for more knowledge to take on real estate management's most dynamic challenges. That's www.irem.org.